This Spring into Storytime session with Jack and the Beanstalk. Did you know that Jack and the Beanstalk is one of the oldest fairy tales known to man? Sharing a book is fun, but sharing a story straight from your imagination is a lot of fun too. For all the reluctant storytellers among you, we invite you to spring into Storytime. So if you don't have any books to hand, or for whatever reason you're not comfortable reading a book, this is the story time for you. It's a time to use your imagination. Your imagination lives right up there in your head. Some say it lives directly behind your ears, some behind your eyes. Who knows for sure? But we definitely all have one. Let's take it for a test drive. Jack and the Beanstalk will lead the way on how to tell a story from your imagination today. Tomorrow it's your turn, so listen up. But before we get started, here are a few tips and suggestions for finding your own way to story time and beyond. Don't worry if you don't have a lot of time in your busy day for story time. Just a few minutes will make a big difference to you and the little ones you share your stories with. Your story doesn't have to be a fairy tale. Sometimes stories from your own life, past and present, can be as interesting and very funny. You know your little ones best, and you know what makes them sit up and take notice and what makes them laugh. If you get stuck at the start line, just cast your mind back to your own childhood. What was your favourite story? Now retell in your own words. Sure, it doesn't matter if Little Red Riding Hood ends up in the cottage of the three pigs. Just keep going, get it out there, you've got this, and the listener will love you for it. Mix it up, be creative, don't be afraid to use actions or funny sounds. Make yourself a promise, allocate a time and no excuses, screens off, get close and get going. Bring your A game, there's no right or wrong way to share a story. Get family members involved in story time. It's a great way to bond. Big brothers and sisters, uncles, aunts, granny and granddads, minders and carers can all tell stories. Remember, story time is not just for bedtime, it's for the whole day through. Today, girls and boys, we are going to chat to the very rich and famous Jack of the Beanstalk. So buckle up and hold on to your hats and glasses. We are about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. This story may start off slow, but boy does it pick up speed and finishes with a jaw-dropping ending. Jack, I think you can take it away.
Well, I lived with my mother on a small farm near Dundrum Library. Just the two of us. We were very poor, but we were very happy. Every day I would help around the farm, chopping wood, weeding the garden, and milking our cow, Daisy. But there came a day when we had no money left to buy seeds or to grow vegetables. To get money, we had to sell Daisy, our cow. I remember the morning I was taking her to the market like it was yesterday. I think Daisy knew right well what was about to happen. I had terrible trouble getting her through the garden gate and off towards the market. And to make matters worse, none of the farmers at the market were interested in buying poor Daisy. No, too old, they all laughed. You must be joking, young man. All that cow is good for is to be a pet.
Nobody wanted poor Daisy the cow. Sure, that meant no money for seeds, Jack.
I know. And what was I going to tell my mother? I was feeling pretty miserable and worried. I was dragging my feet towards home, but then the strangest
thing, don't tell us. Are things about to get worse?
Well, that's for you to decide. I didn't think things could get any lower. No money, no seeds, no hope. I was so lost in my thoughts I hadn't noticed this strange looking man walking towards me on the road. I bumped smack bang into him. I got the mother of all frights, I can tell you. Anyway, he said he would take old Daisy off my hands. She would make a good companion for him, as his old sheepdog called Lassie had just died. He claimed that Lassie was over 200 years old, and she was gone back to Tiernan Oak, where she was needed to help Cuchulainn tend his sheep. Yeah, right. Just before the old sheepdog went, She told the old man to be on the road to the market the next day and to take some magic beans from Tirnanog with him. Lassie foretold that the man would meet a young lad called Jack and his cow Daisy. The dog instructed the old man to trade his magic beans for Daisy the cow, for Daisy would be the most wonderful friend to the old man as they travelled the highways and byways of Ireland.
Magic beans and a talking dog from Tirnanog. What happened next?
Well, I've already explained that I was desperate to sell Daisy. I couldn't just go home to my mother without selling the cow, so in a moment of madness I agreed to sell Daisy to the old man for 3 magical beans.
3 beans? 3 beans for a milking cow? Are you mad?
I know it was a big chance to take, but as soon as the old man opened his hand and showed me the magical beans, I just couldn't resist. Holding out his hand, the old man counted 1, 2, 3 magical beans all the way from Tirnanog. If you plant these beans tonight, by morning they will have grown right up to the sky and into the clouds. This beanstalk will take you to a land of mystery, to a land of great riches, to a land that only exists for those who are brave enough to take the chance of trading a milking cow for 3 magic beans.
I don't know, Jack. Doesn't sound like a good deal to me.
No, listen. Here's the deal I made with him. If those beans didn't grow into a magical beanstalk by tomorrow morning, I was getting Daisy back. Absolutely no problem, Jack. If the magic beans do not grow into a sky-soaring beanstalk as I've promised, I will meet you on the road to market tomorrow and you can have Daisy back. Certainly felt like a reasonable guarantee. I'd certainly heard stories of Tirnanog and the magical ways of the people who lived there. So I took a huge leap of faith and handed over our only cow, Daisy, our only milking cow, to this strange man. Carefully pocketing the beans, I returned home to tell my mother all about my adventure.
3 beans in exchange for a milking cow. Did your mother think this was the deal of a lifetime?
Not exactly. She was pretty mad, actually. What are you talking about, magical beans? She shouted. You silly boy, you traded our milking cow for 3 beans. And then she burst into tears. Go to your room and don't come out until the morning. And with that, she threw those magic beans out the kitchen window.
Oh, Jack, this doesn't look like it's going to end well. We all have our fingers and toes crossed that the magic beans grow.
Yeah, I was so angry at myself for letting my imagination get the better of me. Now we had no Daisy and no hope. That night, the wind and the rain battered the house. Unmerciful claps of thunder rolled overhead and forked lightning spread across the sky. I was so frightened, but I just kept thinking all about my favourite things and fell fast asleep. When the morning came, I jumped up out of bed and noticed that it was strangely dark in the house, like the sun had forgotten to rise and shine down. I crept slowly to the window, thinking, what now? Surely things couldn't have gotten worse. To my amazement, a huge beanstalk had grown up against the house. Its enormous leaves and stem were blocking out the sunlight. I need not tell you. I took the stairs, 10 at a time going down. When I got outside, I could see the beanstalk soared straight up until it disappeared into the clouds.
No, I can't believe that. A huge beanstalk soaring up into the sky. You're pulling my leg. That sort of thing only happens in fairy tales.
I know it sounds unbelievable, but remember what the old man said. If you plant these beans tonight, by morning, they will have grown right up to the sky and into the clouds. This beanstalk will take you to a land of mystery, to a land of great riches, to a land that only exists for those who are brave enough to chance trading a milking cow for 3 magic beans.
Oh, I'm really scared now, Jack. Tell the boys and girls what happened next.
Well, first thing I did was fetch a long rope and an axe from the shed. I wanted to be well prepared for my adventure. If you want to imagine what happened next, all you have to do is close your eyes and imagine. Can you see the ginormous green beanstalk soaring up into the clouds? And me, climbing up the huge leaves and spiral tentacles, like it was a ladder, climbing up through the soft, fluffy clouds until I reached the top of the beanstalk.
Oh, I closed my eyes there and I can see it all. I'm nearly afraid to ask. What was at the top of the beanstalk?
Well, a yellow brick road, only it was paved with gold bars, not yellow bricks. The road led to a castle in the distance, a castle that was about 100 times bigger than Dundrum Library. Can you see the castle shining in the distance?
Oh no, big castles and fairy tales can only mean one thing. Giants who like to eat children like you, Jack.
I did stop for a moment, but thought, nah, be brave, you have nothing to lose. I must get whatever treasure is in this castle, make it up to my mother. But the first thing I did was pick up as many gold bars as I could manage and threw them down the beanstalk, just in case I had to make a run for it without stealing away treasure. Then I made my way slowly towards the castle, keeping under cover of the trees and buildings that lined the road. I'm no hero, and I didn't fancy meeting any big people. Thought it was very strange that nobody is about. Maybe a giant or giants had eaten everyone. Not a single person or animal did I come across as I stole my way up to the castle. When I reached the castle, I stopped, climbed up on the drawbridge, crawled across the drawbridge and noticed a gap under the great big oak door. I peeped under and, as there was no one around, I slid under the door and into the castle. My heart was thumping in my chest. I was afraid that it would give me away, but nothing but silence greeted me inside the castle walls. I quickly and quietly made my way deeper into the castle, keeping as close to the walls as I could.
This is truly an exciting adventure. The boys and girls are with you every step of the way. You seem to have it all under control. Everyone keep your eyes closed, and Jack, you roll on with the story.
Thankfully, I was so small in this castle that I could peep under the doors, and eventually I found the kitchen and again squeezed under the door. I inched along the wall and slid under a cupboard. There, in the middle of the kitchen, was the biggest, most enormous man I have ever seen. Bigger than Liberty Hall. In fact, much bigger than that. This giant of a man was sitting at a huge table, counting huge gold coins.
That all sounds terrifying. Were you not worried he might find you?
I didn't have time to be scared because all I could think about was how I could get hold of the sack of gold coins he was busy counting and carry it back down the beanstalk to my mother. I was so busy hatching a plan to escape with the coins, I didn't even notice that he had gotten up from the table to fetch a basket overflowing with golden eggs. The giant bent down and picked up a hen that had been resting in front of the fire. He put the hen on the table and began poking the poor creature with his thumb and growling, "Lay golden eggs, hen."
A hen that lays golden eggs? Oh, I don't believe you. It's not possible.
Golden eggs are not that uncommon. Sure, don't we all get golden eggs at Easter time every year? It's the same sort of idea, except the eggs the Easter Bunny brings are made of chocolate and wrapped in gold. Anyway, back at the castle, the giant had tired of the poor hen and was searching in a cupboard behind him for something else. After much banging and mumbling, the giant pulled out a golden harp, and on front of the harp there was the face of a sad girl. Her arms dangled out to the sides, as if she was about to play a tune. Just then, the giant turned around, sniffing the air, and he roared, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Irishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." I was so frightened, I was sure the giant could hear me breathe. I rolled as close to the wall as I could and I waited to be discovered. But after a while it became quiet again, and I rolled forward the tiniest bit to see what the giant was up to. The giant was scratching his head while mumbling, "I was sure I could smell a human in the kitchen. Well, I will definitely grind their bones to make my bread if I catch one, sneaking around in my castle." The giant placed the harp on the table with a thud and demanded the harp play. I could still hear the beautiful soft music of the harp playing and the magical voice of the young girl as she sang a beautiful lullaby. Slowly, the giant's head began to nod and his eyes grew heavy as he began to snore. Still hiding under the kitchen cupboard, I knew I needed to act fast to escape before the giant woke up and caught me, so I crept out of my hiding place, and as quiet as the grave I climbed up the leg of the table and onto the top. I managed to grab the bag of gold and the hen that lays the golden eggs, and just as I was about to take hold of the harp, the sad young girl whispered to me, "You will never make it out of this castle alive. The giant will smell you." I said that I would have to try because I needed the gold coins and the hen for my mother. We had nothing left because I'd swapped Daisy, our cow, for some beans. "Be warned," said the girl. "I too was like you, and the giant caught me trying to take his gold, and look what he did to me. He turned me into a harp to sing him to sleep forever." "Quiet," I whispered to the girl. "You will wake the giant." And with that, I tied the rope I had with me around the giant's belt and climbed down with the hen and the coins and the harp. I left the golden eggs as I didn't want to be too greedy. And as quickly as I could, I dropped into a giant mouse hole I had spied earlier on. So I ran like the wind through the mice tunnels and eventually found myself outside the castle walls. Throwing caution to the wind, I made a dash for the beanstalk, never once looking back. Just as I reached the top of the beanstalk, the ground began to shake, and in the distance I could hear the giant roar, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Irishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread."
Oh no, Jack! The giant's behind you! Hurry up or he'll catch you!
I jumped right down into the beanstalk, and luckily I landed on one of the huge leaves. I slid the rest of the way down the stalk, and when I reached the bottom I took the axe off my belt and began to chop frantically at the beanstalk. Faster and faster I swung the axe, and then with an almighty crash the beanstalk hit the ground.
And the giant?
Well, when I looked up, I could see the giant peering through the clouds because the beanstalk had fallen back to earth, and the giant couldn't figure out how I'd managed to get back down. When I hear the wind blowing and the thunder roll, I like to imagine that the giant is crying over his lost treasure.
Tell us how the story ends, Jack.
Well, my mother was delighted with all the treasure, especially with the hen who laid the golden eggs. And my mother still gives the eggs away to the neighbours and friends who need a helping hand to pay bills and stuff like that. The girl and the harp disappeared not long afterwards, taking the gold harp with her. I imagine the giant's spell wore off and that she made it back to her family. Sometimes when I hear the blackbird sing, I think I recognise her voice amongst its song. And then, the strangest thing of all happened about 6 months after my adventure. I found Daisy tied to the gate of our farm with a note and a small bag tied around her neck.
Oh, we're dying to know. Tell us what was in the bag and what did the note say?
There were 3 beans in the bag, and the note said, "Dear Jack, grow in case of emergency."
Welcome to this Jack and the Beanstalk Storytime inspired craft. We are planting beans and peas today. Let's see if they grow into a magical sky-soaring beanstalk. In this video I will be using Marfat peas because you get a gazillion little peas in a pack. We suggest that you steep the peas in water overnight. If you are using packets of seeds, use as directed on the packet. As always, the staff at Dundrum Library try to use items you have already at home or from the recycling bin. Bottom of a used milk carton which has been cleaned out will make a super plant pot. You can dress it up by wrapping it in your favourite paper or make it extra special by wrapping it in your own artwork. Just a quick reminder, remember always to put drainage holes in your container. Just in case our beans don't turn out to be magic, we will create a little magic of our own. Let's draw and colour a castle in the clouds for the beanstalk to grow up into. Download an image of a castle from the internet or find the perfect one in a colouring book or trace one from a favourite book of yours. Next, draw a cloud shape at the base of the castle. Next, let's cut the castle and the cloud shapes out. For the wow factor, stick some cotton wool or makeup pads into the cloud shapes at the base of your castle. Many thanks for joining us here today for our Spring into Storytime session. Don't forget the children love to tell stories too, so dedicate one of your Storytime sessions to them. Give them the opportunity to tell you a story, get them hooked on storytelling. And remember always, enjoy, relax and do it your way. You will improve over time. Give storytelling a go. Do it today. No excuses. You do have time.